Hey guys, a huge new scandal has hit the world of chess, this time women's chess. Kateryna Lagno, one of the strongest female chess players in the world, has withdrawn from one of the top tournaments of this year, from FIDE Grand-Prix in India, because she said that it was politically motivated, the decision to not give her the beauty prize for the game that she played. I'm going to show you this game against the German player Elisabeth Paehtz. And this prize was given to another female player who used to play for Russia, actually the former women's world chess champion, Alexandra Kosteniuk, whom I've interviewed on my podcast on this channel, a great player. She was given the prize for her game against the contender for the women's chess crown, zhongyi. And many people, I've discussed this with many people have different opinions, but some believe that yes, there could be some political motivation because Alexandra Kosteniuk is playing for Switzerland these days, Lagno is playing for Russia. So I don't know. I will let chess speak for itself. I will show you both of those games. Both are fascinating. You are going to learn a lot, enjoy it. And then at the end of the day, I will ask you to write in the comments whether you believe the decision to not award the beauty prize to Kateryna Lagno, whether it was politically motivated or not. Let's dive into this. The first one, it's a beauty. It's a real beauty. Lagno said that it's one of the best games in her chess career, and her chess career has been very successful. By the way, fun fact, I have not yet recorded a podcast with her, but I've recorded a podcast episode with her husband, Alexander Grishuk, who is one of the strongest among men, so a powerful chess couple they are. Okay, let's go. Kateryna is playing with white pieces, Elisabeth Paehtz is playing with black pieces, and Elisabeth is not having a great tournament. She said that she's going to retire this year, so probably not in her best form, but still, this was a real fight. You're going to enjoy it. So this is some kind of a Queen's Gambit with h6, some trendy line. I'm not an expert in this, but many people play this these days. Knight f6 and c5. Already here, I think they both started improvising because Lagno said that they both started thinking after c5. Looks like an interesting idea. Of course, you can play b6, trying to undermine this pawn chain, but your opponent went for knight h5, attacking the bishop, which is also very natural. The bishop drops back. Now e5. Provocative move. And you can see by the time usage, 1 hour 3 minutes already. So 17 minutes spent on this move. Probably Elisabeth was calculating different variations, but it's a good move because if white takes, then the black's bishop will be able to take that pawn. So e3, trying to strengthen the center and also attacking with the queen, sneaky queen attack. So g6 needs to also defend the knight, takes, and we get this position, queen b3. Attacking d5 2 times, so black defends it. And now Kateryna was feeling in a fighting mood, definitely, because of the move that she executed on this move. Long castles, a very risky approach, because the c file is open. The king is not that safe. If the bishop, for example, goes to f5 in future and cuts the king may be in grave danger here. On the other hand, this king is also not feeling too great. If it castles, look at those dark squares around it. Look at the pawns. They advance too early and they may become targets. So it's a double-edged position. Here, bishop e7 is an interesting move, retreating the bishop. You should not generally make 2 moves in a row with the same piece in the opening. All chess coaches will tell you that, but this move has the purposes of, for example, putting the knight on c5. This square is great for the knight. Also, maybe someday advancing the c pawn, putting the rook on c8, but we will see whether it came to fruition. Knight f3 developing, and now knight a6 was the move chosen by black. Very logical. The engine may dislike it, but humanly speaking, it's very logical. You want to put the knight on c5. Sorry about my arrows. Attacking the queen, gaining a tempo, and getting a great position. The refutation is that white apparently can just take and be much better, because after takes, you can go queen a4, put pressure on this pawn, but no human would do this. At least not many humans would do this, because this opens up the b file. Your king can be subject to vicious attacks, and this doesn't look very safe for white. Taken, and Lagno decided not to do that. Instead, she went e6. She decided, I will be the one attacking. I don't need this stupid pawn. And objectively, it's not the best move. The engine says that it's even a mistake, but wow, this is the beginning of a great attack. This looks very nice. So the pawn can be taken like this, the pawn can be taken like this, but of course, if you take like this, it's not good. So this pawn gets weak, this king gets even weaker. So you should take with the bishop, obviously. And this is the move that comes to mind first. Both sides calculated a long time, and Black decided against it, but turns out it would be a trap, because if we take this pawn with white, which is not probably what Lagno intended, knight c5 attacks the queen, and if you take yet another pawn with check, it's okay, king f8, and black is better here, because if you go like knight d4, for example, a6, this sneaky move traps the queen, because the queen has no moves. Apparently, it's just going to get trapped after rook c8. So it's a sneaky trap. Of course, it's not given that Lagno would have taken those pawns, but that's bishop e6 would be a nice idea. Instead, what black did was also kind of logical. Knight c5, attacking the queen, takes with check, and in between move, you don't have to retreat the queen if you can check your opponent. And here, if black takes the pawn, it looks not too promising. Queen c2, for example, putting pressure here. This check is threatened. Very, very nasty attack. So, of course, black goes king f8, which is more logical, using this pawn as a shield, very standard idea. Queen c2, nonetheless, the queen was hanging, so it had to retreat. Now it's eyeing the g6 pawn. Bishop f5, also very logical, putting pressure on the queen. What will the queen do? Where can it go? It has no squares. Here's where fireworks begin. e4. This pawn can be taken like 3 different ways. By pawn, by bishop, by knight, but none of them work. Already white is much better. The attack is simply unstoppable because of the following sequence of moves. Takes with the pawn, which is logical, attacking the knight. And now g4, pushing another pawn. This is spectacular. This is beautiful. This is really beautiful. So in this position, by the way, you can win the queen of black. You can take here with check, rook takes, and then you take the queen, and you say, haha, I won the queen. Nice, and you have a losing position. So you shouldn't win the queen like that. Apparently, black has very menacing pieces. This is hanging. This is very unpleasant. This is unpleasant. The knight can jump here. So black's attack is too strong. So you should not do this. You should not win the queen. Under such circumstances, you should calculate whether winning a queen is worth it. Here, it's not. But instead, g4. Wow, what a move! Again, the idea is that if black takes, we will be able to take the bishop. So the bishop is not a threat, and we deflect the bishop from defense of this pawn, and then we will be able to take it with our knight. Or knight e5. She's not even taken. This is beautiful. The engine says, by the way, that taking a pawn is okay, white is much better, but this is just beautiful. You can just simply take a pawn and be better. Instead, you sacrifice a rook for a bishop and for a vicious attack because you want to take here with check. Very nice move. I really like it, even though the engine says it's not the best move, but it's very flashy. So black takes, we take with check. Again, we do not do anything, don't have to take it because we can check the opponent. King g7, and now we take. And if black takes here, we have rook g1, and it's a devastating attack. The engine says it's already close to winning. So here, Elizabeth realizes that she's in trouble. She did not want to take here, and she decided to go for active counterplay, which is very instructive. You should all do this, guys and girls. Hopefully, you all also watching and learning from the best females. So e3, a very nice, practically speaking, shot. So of course I cannot take with my bishop because then the queens will get traded and it will be a win for black, who is up material. So I have to take by pawn. And now black takes. And what black achieved is the fact that now this bishop is stupid, this d2 bishop. And after a check, black blocks. And yes, after h4, black will lose that pinned bishop, but nonetheless, there are some chances. Of course, white is much better, attack is probably unstoppable, but you have to deliver the killing blow here. And both players are nearing time trouble. So knight f6, takes, queen c2 is a check, all normal. Black takes. Now bishop c4. Look at how every move is trying to harass black's king. Very instructive. King moves, queen f5. Now it's eyeing those squares, but they are defended for the time being by the knight. But the knight is also attacked. So if the knight moves, the square will be fatal with this move. So the knight cannot move. They defend. And now e4, pushing this pawn, wanting to push it to e5. This is also handy. Now, remember how black sacrificed that pawn to kill white's bishop. Now the white's dark square bishop is again alive, and it's very menacing. And it's close to winning already. The attack is simply too strong. Even though black has extra material, black is up a rook for a bishop. And also an extra pawn, but the king is too weak for black. But the black fights on. Queen d4. It's a fork. The rook is hanging. The bishop is hanging. What to do? What should we do here? Rook f1. We don't pay attention to the bishop because then we will take the knight and it will be devastating. Here black goes knight d7. It's already losing, so you cannot criticize this move too much. Bishop g5. Takes this pawn. This is a pin. Again, you can take here. And here in the interview, Lagno explained that she calculated the following variation. Just take a look. This is very impressive calculation, by the way. Check, 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 queen g1. Nice check, right? Not an obvious move. By the way, not the only move, but very beautiful. And then a rook d4 with a pin and win. So this is the variation that she calculated, several moves ahead. Nice one, nice calculation when you have 3 minutes on the clock. So her opponent instead tried to protect this with the rook, but bishop e6 puts even more pressure. Look at those bishops, look at those pieces, look at those rook and queen. All white's pieces are in the attack. This poor knight is not, but it's also serving an important purpose of defending the king. So rook d8, trying to hold on, but we just take, and we go e5. And now this pawn is also creating, wreaking havoc in black's camp. So it's almost lights out. So we take with check, the king runs, now white is up, 1 pawn already, e6, attacks the rook, the queen checks white, king b1, rook d6, but it's losing in many ways, but white makes here a brilliant move according to chess.com's engine, but not very brilliant, not the most brilliant move of the game, definitely. e7. e7, because we want to make a new queen. Rook retreats, and now bishop e5 pins this rook. And once black takes, rook d1 now pins the queen. How many pins in this game? You should calculate how many pins there were in this game. This is crazy. Like, I think 10 pins, both by white and black. Very, very, very instructive. Black resigns here because black will lose a bunch of material and the game. Beautiful game. But maybe the second one is even more beautiful because they awarded the most beautiful game prize to the second one. Let's take a look at the second one. By the way, I admire all the players in this video. This is not like intended to be disapproving of any of them. So let's dive into this. Alexandra Kosteniuk, former world chess champion, versus Tan Zhongyi, also former world chess champion against among females. She will be playing for the chess crown very soon. So here we have, the match will be, by the way, starting in a couple of days, I think, against the reigning world chess champion among females, who is also from China. So it will be a fight. Zhu Wenzhun. That's the name of the current world chess champion. h4. So this is a trendy way to play against the King's Indian or the Grunfeld defense. We want just to push h5, maybe even h6. This is what the neural networks have taught humanity. This is a good way to play against such openings. Takes, e4, taking the center, c5, striking at the center. Very, very principled opening. The Grunfeld defense, you should learn a lot of theory if you want to play it with black or with white. d5, and now bishop g4 is apparently a mistake. And some commentators said that maybe Tan Zhongyi is hiding her prep for the match, and maybe she has something else in mind. Not bishop g4, maybe b5, for example, is what the engine suggests. Interesting. And if we take like this, then we can take like this, or we can first check the king and then take. And this is like, again, an example of some deadly pins. Very unpleasant. So b5 looks very logical and nice, but instead bishop g4 is what black does. Check, now retreats. White takes the pawn. White is much better, already +1 in the opening. So interesting choice by Tan Zhongyi. Kosteniuk is looking very promising here. Now queen takes c5, takes a pawn. Nothing too bad about that. Takes another one. And now goes knight g5. Very logical. Wants to take the bishop and gain the 2 bishops advantage for white. Knight c6, and here I cannot explain why white did not just take, because if you put your knight on g5, you spend the tempo. Why don't you take and have a great position? I think it's much better for white, but maybe white decided it's not like they are not in a rush. So instead, white goes bishop f4, and this is a mistake already, and now black is going to take over the initiative with a great move, knight g4. Knight g4 opens up this diagonal, which is important. Actually, the threat here is, if we do nothing, if we go like a3, for example, the threat is bishop d4, forking the queen and the f2 pawn, and it's going to be bad. And if I go here like, if I take, for example, here, then this rook also joins the attack, and it's horrible. Bishop g3, bishop d4, we can resign. So yeah, instead, after this move, knight g4, e5, a pawn sacrifice, is employed by Alexandra Kosteniuk. A very nice one, the best move according to the engine. We have to do something. We have to stop to block this diagonal. Now it's blocked, even though at the cost of the pawn. Now rook d1, nice move, attacks the queen. The queen has to move. Queen e8. We take finally. The pawn takes. Now this rook is active, but it's a double-edged position, around equal, dynamic equality. Bishop retreats. Also iron this pawn, of course. Now rook c8 attacks the queen. The queen has to move. Queen b5. And now black could have accepted the queen trade, and this would have led to an approximately equal endgame. But Tan Zhongyi was not in the mood for equal endgames. Tan Zhongyi wanted to play the game that will be awarded the beauty prize and create a scandal. Even though Tan Zhongyi was not the one who received that prize, but she definitely played a role, because if she takes here, nobody will give the beauty prize to this game. It's just a game, probably a draw. Instead, Tan Zhongyi plays queen e7, which is objectively maybe not the strongest move, but it avoids simplifications. She wants to play for a win. Bishop e2, rook f5, creating some X-ray here. It's a mistake according to the engine. Apparently, there were better moves, rook c6, for example, but it's hard to, with 5 minutes on the clock here, it's hard to find the best move. So it's, of course, normal. Rook f5 maybe wants to double up, create some threats against the queen. Actually, knight f3 check, for example, is a threat, then winning the queen. So the queen draws back. Now black goes b5. This is a crazy move. It can be taken 3 different times. Actually, all work except for taking with the queen, because then that X-ray again would work. So white takes the pawn. Apparently, this is just a blunder. This sacrifice of the pawn, it doesn't work, but it looks very flashy. Now I don't know what the idea is. Maybe to deflect this knight from I don't know. Queen c5. Maybe it's just a pawn. Black decided, okay, I'll just give white a pawn and I'll figure out what to do later. So queen c5 puts even more pressure on the f2 pawn. This is like the most important pawn, the most important square in this position for white and black. And what white does, white just castles, which is the best move in this position. And it's a great move, actually. You should castle your king when you're attacked and you feel the heat. Just castle it and protect everything, because now 3 pieces defend the f2 pawn. So knight e3, nice. Flashy sacrifice. Actually, it's already losing for black, but it's spectacular nonetheless. Actually, white can even take, but the idea is to fork like this, to fork white like this, and if bishop here, for example, queen here, but it's losing. It's losing apparently. Knight d6 is a fork of white, of black's black's rooks by white, and black is losing. But it doesn't look safe to take such a knight. Knight e3 looks scary. So for this reason, b4 was the move chosen by white, and it's the best move. Kosteniuk played a great game. It's not a bad game, definitely, by any means. Lagno did not say, by the way, that her game should have deserved the award, but Kosteniuk's game was like rubbish. No, she said Kosteniuk's game was good, but she believes by her own standards. Obviously, Kosteniuk played a nice game, but nothing too spectacular, and she has had lots of better games in her career, Kosteniuk. And even Kosteniuk herself, in an interview, agreed. She said that, yeah, I liked Lagno's game better, but they gave the prize to me. So interesting, and very nice of Kosteniuk, I think, to acknowledge this, that she liked her competitor's game better. I think it's a nice gesture. Okay, so b4 attacks the queen, but still, this is a great game. You will enjoy it. You definitely already enjoy it, since you did not click the close button. Queen retreats to b6, and now knight jumps to d6. So instead of defending any of those rooks or taking the knight, white creates even more chaos on the board, attacks 2 rooks of black. By the way, have you seen such a position? White knight forked 2 rooks, black knight forked 2 rooks, and yeah, it's like a Mexican standoff. Everybody is looking at each other and anticipating the next move. Who's going to shoot first? Black is going to take the rook first. White is going to take the rook second. But the problem for black is that the queen is now hanging, and it's losing because of that. So what does black decide to do? Black decides to sacrifice the queen. Knight takes g3, which is probably one of the best moves in the position, but still it's losing. So white takes, black takes with check, king here. Now a couple of checks later. Maybe we'll get a repetition, maybe we will get a draw. If white goes here, 3-fold repetition is a draw in chess? No. White goes king e1, avoiding the repetition, correctly evaluating this position as winning. So knight f3. By the way, this is beautiful. Actually, Zhongyi, I think, played even more beautifully than Alexandra Kosteniuk in this game. Even though, like, the beauty prize went to the winning side, of course. Spoiler alert, yes, white won this game. But black played a more beautiful game, in my opinion. Knight f3, look at those knights. So the idea of sacrificing this knight like this is that you check like this. And the knight and the bishop create kind of a mating net around the king. White king cannot move. But thankfully for white, white has rook d2. And white is up 7 points of material. At this point, white can give up this rook easily and still win. So black takes the knight. White gives a couple of checks. Takes the pawn. This knight is still hanging for black, so black goes knight f5, king d1, and we get the trade for the bishop and the rook, and white emerges in a winning endgame. The queen is much stronger than a rook and a knight, and white has potential for a passed pawn here, so it's easily winning, but some technique is required, of course, so we get some maneuvering, checks. White picks up the h7 pawn, probably will pick up this pawn as well. No, but white trades off. Now white has these passed pawns, the f pawns doubled. They are doubled, but they are passed. And white will also get this passed pawn, and it's going to decide the game. Actually, one of those pawns would be enough to win this, probably, but more technique would be required if there was just one. But there are 2 passed pawns here, and it's going to be a technical task that is for Alexandra Kosteniuk, former world chess female champion. Of course, this is easy peasy lemon squeezy. So we get this position, and now the knight is attacked. Knight moves, knight doesn't move, but knight moves now here to stop the queening. And of course, many moves win here, but what Kosteniuk does here is the flashest. She just gives the queen back with check. And then she can queen, of course. She can make a queen. This is winning, but she decides to make a knight with check, which is beautiful. We have to admit, even people who believe that Lagno's game is much more beautiful, you have to admit that this is also a beautiful game. Under promotion to a knight. Not every day you see this. And here, black resigned because black can go here, but knight d5, and black will not even be able to take any of those pawns, and they will promote. So what do you think? Write in the comments whether you believe the second game or the first game was better, was more beautiful, was more deserving. And thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button. See you in the next one.